probably will notice very quickly that Ramin and I are very passionate about the topic of leadership. It really matters to us because we as leaders look at leadership in a little different way. It's not only the task that we have to perform or the goals we have to achieve, but also the environment that we create. The environment that we create where people care about each other, where people feel safe and valued and important. And most importantly, where people can thrive. And I think you are here because you don't want just people to survive, you want people to thrive. And that is, I think, what the goal of this webinar is. How do we create and how do we learn this map of relationships where people are clear on what people need? And that is what the EMC, I think, process is all about. Is done my research about for 10 years now. And I came really to the conclusion that attachment science, and I call it attachment science because I don't think it's a theory anymore. There's lots of thousands and thousands of studies that has been done on the attachment and relationship. And I believe that work relationships are based on attachment. And the more secure attachment you have, the better people work together. So you as leaders, I mean, we have to learn how to put that attachment lens on and look at interactions through that attachment glasses.
Well, certainly, I think much of what you just discussed is critical to topics of well-being and being well connected within an organization. And that's what really leadership is all about at the end, is really about creating the connections and feeding them and nurturing them and empowering people to create deeper connect with each other. Leadership to me is not just the leadership, but also the leader concept. And we're going to talk a little bit about both of those because they're the same, but they're not the same. What I've been spending a lot of my time in the last 30 years or so, I guess, working on is really the notion of putting courage back into leadership again. It seems to be a fleeting item, putting love into leadership. And I think it's an item that we don't talk enough about, and putting wisdom into leadership. These are the concepts that I wrestle with as I work with different leaders in different situations, seeing how we can not only encourage these elements, but also nurture them and have them be available throughout the whole organization. So we'll talk more about these things as we go along. But let's get started. It's really exciting stuff.
So as you can see, communicative gets #1. Ramin, what do you think about that?
Oh, I think this is a critical component. So I want to actually start this conversation picking up on the information. Obviously, you all believe that many of these things are important to varying degrees. Communication is critical. It is how we connect, obviously, through understanding what other people are saying and thinking. So I want to begin this by first challenging, actually, the topic of our webinar, which is how do we make a stronger leader? So what I want to start is actually maybe our goal should be how do we make a better leader? And that strength is in some ways an oversold promise, because it focuses on a type of leadership that's very heroic minded. One person being the leader, running an organization, and there they are, their strength is critical. Whereas a better leader is really about better at connecting, better at dreaming, better at guiding, better at seeing new possibilities. And as you put it, Lola, better at building thriving cultures. And those are cultures that grow and learn. And those are components that all of the people in an organization have to do. So to me, the challenge is to really move away from the heroic leadership mindset to a compassionate leadership mindset, which is much more about an overall organization. So that is visible in many of the answers that we are seeing, whether it's being courageous or adaptive, creative, visionary, accessible. authentic, a concept that, thanks to Brene Brown and many others, is finding its way into the leadership conversations. And as expected, result-driven is not as high, because leadership isn't really about results. Leadership is about connections. And through connections, all results are possible. But without connections, only very first order results become possible. So that's sort of the conversation. And thanks everyone to giving us your thoughts. And we'll talk a lot more about these, but maybe we can go to the next part, which is really talking a little bit more about management and leadership.
Yes, and I also want to add on a little bit that I love that communicative it gets number one, because I want you to think about interaction as a dance, and emotion is the music of the dance. And in order for us to change the dance where people can move in the same circle together, is what we have to change the music. And the emotion, again, once you recognize the emotion and you understand the emotion, the communication becomes so much easier to do, and it becomes coherent and clear.